Looking at this, I can't help thinking of a phrase of my grandmother's. It's a face only a mother could love. Do you love them?
Well, I do. For a while, it lived in my parents' house in a cupboard in the spare bedroom.
The bedroom that my brother and I would stay in if we stayed over, and we were terrified of it. Definitely couldn't sleep with it in there.
Behind that scowling face is one of the great eccentric stories in British ceramics. The firm was run by 4 brothers, and the eldest, the one who modelled this creature, had trained as an architectural stone carver, cutting decorative work for the new Houses of Parliament as a young man, before he ever sat down at a potter's wheel. That mason's eye is exactly why these birds feel almost alive. Every single one was sculpted freehand in salt-glazed stoneware and fired at the brothers' own pottery out in Southall, West London, so no two are ever remotely identical. The work was painfully slow, the kill was unpredictable, and the business barely made a penny. When the last of the brothers died in the early 1920s, the pottery closed for good, and these glowering tobacco jars, the things they are best remembered for, have been climbing in value ever since.
And the head, because it's so characterful, I think they would pay £4,000 for it.
It's a lot just for a head.
Yes.
But there's an intriguing possibility. If you could find the head for this body, and you could find the body for this head, you would have a profit of £60,000 to £70,000, because that's how much the 2 separate items would be if they were complete.
That is amazing. I don't think he's grown on me, and I don't think I'd be impressed if I got him as a birthday present, as my great-grandma did.
So Ernie hasn't gone up in your estimation?
Well, you could sell him.
No, he brings back quite funny memories, so I feel like he has to stay in the family.
Oh, definitely, yes.
This is one of the 4 vessels an Egyptian embalmer would seal inside a tomb, each holding a different organ lifted from the body during mummification. The human-faced guardian here, Imseti, was the one entrusted with the liver, and he in turn was watched over by Isis, the greatest of all the Egyptian goddesses. It is carved from a single block of veined alabaster, a soft and translucent stone the ancient workshops adored because it seems to glow when light passes through it. But what truly lifts this piece above the ordinary is its paperwork. It still carries the original bill of sale from an established dealer in Cairo, signed and dated in the 1930s, from an age when a traveller could simply buy a genuine pharaonic antiquity across a shop counter for a few pounds and carry it home in a suitcase. That unbroken paper trail, now almost a century old, is rarer today than the jar itself.
My grandparents travelled extensively pre-war and obviously ended up in Cairo at one point. And my grandfather, who loved to collect beautiful things, bought this, the canopic jar.
Yeah, well, I collect scarabs, but I've never had the luck to find one of these. But as you know, that's about 1290 to 1180 BC. That's the time of Ramses and Set. So if it's confirmed, which I'm sure it is, that it's from that date, it could make £4,500, and it could possibly make more.
Gosh, it's amazing.
You've watched hundreds of these moments. The ordinary object, the jaw-dropping value. But here's the question we never ask: what's sitting in your home? You don't have to wait for the roadshow to come to your town. In seconds, Velco tells you what it is, when it was made, and what it could be worth. It's like having the roadshow in your pocket. Open the App Store and search Velco. VELQO. Or point your phone at the screen. You might be sitting on a fortune.
And my husband found it when he was a little boy up in the attic. And from what we can gather, it actually belonged to a family member back then.
The pattern has both a name and a face. It is called a Tarleton, after Banastre Tarleton, a dashing and notoriously ruthless British cavalry officer of the American War of Independence. The painter Joshua Reynolds immortalized him in 1782 wearing exactly this kind of fur-crested leather helmet, and the look swept straight through the British light cavalry. The marking around the front ties this one to a troop of part-time volunteer yeomanry, farmers, tradesmen and townsmen who armed themselves and drilled at weekends through the long invasion scare, when a landing by revolutionary France felt like a real and present danger. An officer could afford a fine helmet and kept it as an heirloom. An ordinary trooper's was government issue, worn hard and thrown out the moment it wore through. That is the simple reason almost none survive, and why one surfacing in a farmhouse attic, of all places, is such an extraordinary thing.
And I think any collector of this period would be willing to pay something in the region of 4,000 to 5,000 for a helmet like this. Yes, really.
He died in 1980, and it was his wish that I chose one of his paintings.
The appraiser leans towards the younger of the two Albert Ludovicis, and that attribution carries real weight, because the junior Ludovici kept remarkable company. He was a close friend and devoted follower of the American master James McNeill Whistler, and he held office in the Royal Society of British Artists right through Whistler's stormy spell as its president in the 1880s, part of a determined push to drag cautious English painting towards the lighter, looser French manner. That is precisely the rapid, sketch-like handling you can see across this canvas. Ludovici spent long stretches working in Paris, exhibited at the Royal Academy, and late in life set it all down in a vivid memoir of artistic society in both cities. Above all, he had a gift for warm, faintly comic scenes of ordinary people at play, which is exactly why a small, good-humoured picture like this one can still hold a room a century and a half after he painted it.
And therefore, in a sale now, I would reckon this painting would make at least £5,000 or £6,000.
Right.
It might make more because it's such a nice subject, and I'd certainly suggest insuring it for, say, £7,500.
Okay.
So a very charming picture, and
Thank you very
delighted to have it.
This collection rewards a slow second look, and the necklace is the reason. It was made using a goldsmith's technique called canotile, which enjoyed a brief and brilliant vogue in the 1820s and 30s. Gold was scarce and expensive in the lean years after the Napoleonic Wars, so jewelers learned to coil hair-fine threads of it into dense, lacy ornament, rosettes, tendrils, and tiny curls that made a piece look rich and substantial while using only a sliver of actual metal. The idea was borrowed straight from fine embroidery, and every coil was twisted and soldered by hand by candlelight, which made it ruinously slow and costly to produce. The fashion burned itself out within a single generation as machine-made jewelry arrived, so a complete, intact example from its short heyday, worn here with matching emeralds, is exactly the kind of thing the trade now quietly hunts for.
They were my mother-in-law's, and they were in the bank. And it wasn't until after her death, 12 years ago, that we discovered this jewelry.
Look closely at the emeralds and they tell their own story. Stones of this age almost always came from a single corner of the globe, the Muso and Chiva mines high in the mountains of Colombia, worked since the Spanish conquest of the 16th century and still the benchmark by which the world's finest emeralds are judged. Jewelry like this was made to be admired by candle and lamplight, never the flat glare of day, so the stones were chosen and set for deep, glowing color rather than the icy flash a modern ring chases. The three pieces taken together, the geometric brooch, the drop earrings and that early necklace, span almost exactly 100 years of shifting fashion, and yet one family kept them and quietly locked them away in a bank vault, unworn and unseen, until they finally came up to be valued.
One would be expecting them to make maybe 4,000 or 5,000. Moving on to the necklace, I think that if it was offered at auction, it would probably make about £8,000.
Really?
Yeah. So add those together, something approaching 15,000 to 20,000.
Before you go, a quick word that could save you from a costly mistake. Every week, treasures like the ones you just watched are sold at car boot and yard sales for pennies by people who simply didn't know what they had. Don't let that be you. With Velco, just snap a photo of anything in your home, and in seconds you'll know what it really is, and what it's really worth. And it's completely free. Point your phone's camera at the code on screen now, or search the App Store for Velco, the V-E-L-Q-O-N-O before you let it go.